Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we are bringing you a Kickstarter preview of The Great Rat Wars, a game that West handpicked from PAX Unplugged this last year.
Yep, one of my favorites.
We had the chance to sit down and play through to a full gameplay with one of the designers down here in the Quackalope studio. It went just as expected. I'll say that. It went just as expected across the board.
Sure
everyone had a satisfactory game, and everyone wants to play again. West, do you want to set up why first you were excited about this title, and then we'll get into the overview, the framework, why people should be paying attention, and tell them to follow. There'll be a link to go check out there's a Kickstarter. You know how it works,
right?
Pretty sure you're watching this and you don't know where you've been. It's a Kickstarter. They raise and
it's where they
new
put
projects
the
come and they
the
exist,
things, and you just give them the things.
You get really cool games that
Fun
you
games.
can't get other places.
Yeah,
great.
Good job.
Yep.
So this is a one versus many skirmish style game where one player is playing the rats and then all the other players are playing the people. But one of the things I think is different about this game in that format is that you actually, as the people, get a chance to play 3 different characters for each person, and then you rotate through those turns for those different people, which I think is a really unique mechanic of it. It also has enough take that to satisfy my take that itch, which if you know me, you know that I love to destroy people and burn them down to the ground and use every special ability I have right out of the gate as quickly as possible to score as many points as I possibly can, which this game does extremely well. And one of the interesting parts about it is that it's very deep without being difficult, if that makes any sense. There's a lot of strategy that you can use with all the different powers that you have on your board, and at the same time it's not overwhelming when it comes to maintenance, which I think a lot of games suffer from, and it has a nice quick play time. About an hour and a half is pretty simple.
Yeah, so just to give you an overview of what you see on the table in front of us here, you're going to have the main map, which has, if you get the deluxe copy of the game, you're going to have big buildings that help separate and create hidey holes and nooks. You're going to have the golden dumpsters, which are going to be one of the targets for the humans to blow up because rats always come from the trash.
Absolutely.
You have trash cans.
Yep, additional things that you can search for components to be able to create explosives and blow up the dumpsters.
You're going to have various different miniatures, like you already said. You're going to have, usually, I think, 2 bosses.
Yep,
if you're playing as the rats, or 2 generals.
3 different types of rats that you can play with. We currently have the queen and the king rat here on our table.
And then a selection of 3 out of 9 of the potential characters per player.
Correct.
So we're sitting here with a 3-player game. So we have one person controlling both general rats.
Yep.
And then we have a set of 6 with 2 players controlling 3 characters each. Now that sounds like a lot. We'll get into why it really isn't when it comes to the application of a skirmish game and what this game does so well when it comes to all the chaos on the board. Now, some of the other stuff you'll see here on the main map is going to be, we have some tunnels that you're able to dig based off special powers and abilities, and we're going to have all these little dice. Each one of these dice are going to be tiny little rats that
that as the generals, you get to spawn them out of the dumpsters, and they just start enveloping the board. At one point in time, there could be as many as 24 of them on the board.
They have very basic movement. They're going to be able to shift. They're going to be able to move and attack like classic minions, but on top of that, the dice are used, or I suppose they're not technically dice. The rat-shaped cubes are used to track 1, 2, and 3 health. And if you have to be confused or you're worried about keeping track of who you've activated and who you haven't activated, as long as you tip them back based off their ears, it'll always show a active or non-active side.
So following the correct amount of health.
Clean, approachable, very easy to follow. Now, each one of our player boards, and I'm going to focus in on a single zone here, but each one of our player boards is going to break down how we actually take our actions. So this is one of the areas that I think the Great Rat Wars has done very well.
I completely agree.
Instead of running all 3 characters all at the same time, you're actually going to be taking one character with 6 total activations, or 6 total potential actions that it can take on your turn, and then you're going to be moving to the next player, and then you're going to be moving to the leader or the person you're playing against. Now, technically, this is a simultaneous play game, meaning all players can act at the same time, speeds things up, but it also means that strategizing between people that are sitting at the table becomes very interesting, because you can shift out of the way, you can throw a grenade down, you can search a dumpster, and then you can react based off of what your other friends, opponents, whoever you're playing with. I know you're trying to do the coolest thing possible, so you can react based off of what they've done and do something completely different. That's usually how it works out. So looking at these boards here, If I zoom in here to the misplaced Texan, you'll see I have 3 stones. These stones are going to represent the core actions or the special abilities that I have. And this row right here will show the 2 different options I have. I could do jog or use my hunting rifle. I could throw a rock or use my magnum. I could punch or use the Texas 3-step. Now, as you drop down here, we're also going to have ultimate abilities, which are represented by these orange cubes. We have a natural marksman ability and we have a last stand ability.
Yeah.
Natural marksman is going to be the superpowered attack. Every single character has one of those, and every single character has a different roster of potential core abilities that they can use. And last stand is going to be standard for everyone across the board, including the enemies that we're facing.
Yep.
This is how you whittle them down to their final little bit of health. Instead of knocking someone out in one big fail swoop, if you get them down to their last health, they will spend one of these special cubes. It'll mean they can only take 1 victory point. Don't worry, I'll let you speak in just a moment.
It's fine.
The last thing that I wanted to point out is going to be these basic actions that are along the side here. You have a basic move, which you're going to be playing a move card from your hand. You'll talk about that in a second because this is a cool mechanic as well. You have a search the trash for those items to find bombs, and you have a trade ability. This trade ability is going to allow you to swap resources between players, not specifically between characters. That means that you have to actually get adjacent to each other, toss some garbage back and forth to figure out what you need in order to blow up and get the points against your opponent. And then finally, we have the blow up the garbage can ability. So there's a lot going on here, but all of it is painted very, very simply on the board. All of it resolves very, very easily, and you're only dealing with one character at a time. The unique part is that after you've activated your character, you now cannot activate them again until every single character you're controlling is thoroughly active. Meaning that as characters die, you get more actions with one character, which is nice.
It is nice.
There's a benefit to dying in this game.
Sort of, yeah. Because then you could use your characters more often, but every time one of these characters die, then that makes them a little bit more powerful, but it also will eventually make the rats stronger too.
The core objective, the thing that you're pursuing on either end is 4 victory points.
4 victory points.
The way that you score victory points is either as the rats, ripping the opponents to shreds.
Yep, basically killing them.
Pretty basic. Or as the humans, blowing up the garbage cans or taking down the lead rats, rats that you're facing. Both of these tasks require a lot of positioning, a lot of movement, and a lot of chaos mitigation.
Yes, lead rats give you 2 victory points if you're able to kill them, and dumpsters give you 1 victory point each.
And so that's the core flow here with the players, and the rats actually play very similarly. There's a few differences, Wes.
Yeah, the main thing about the rats is that you don't have the extra blue cube movements here on the side, and you only get to use 1 movement card for each turn. The other thing that they basically do is there's only 2 of them, so they will swap back and forth. Other than that, their powers are a bit stronger.
And they level up.
And they also level up. Well, these guys kind of level up too when you get to play them more often. But as the victory points for the people are scored, then the rats will actually level up.
Yeah.
And they'll have some special powers with their first level. They'll get berserk at the second level. And then third level, they get additional health that they can play
So it's a game about escalation. Like everything gets more dangerous, everything gets more chaotic, but at the same time, both the heroes themselves, as they find more weapons, they find the ability to like blow up trash cans, and they're able to kind of kite and close off different sections of the city. And the rats, as the opponents score victory points, start getting stronger and stronger. So it sort of escalates to a crescendo. So there's a few last things we have to go over. You're already picking up some of the cards that talk about that. There's basic movement rules here. You have basic movement actions on your tableau. You can spend them, but typically they're linked up against something like a really nice pistol shot. So I might want to do a jump 3 and leap over a rat and try to get to a better position, but if I don't have to, I'd rather use my movement cards.
Yes, and movement cards come in 2 different formats. They come in these different styles here, which are the red formats, and everything goes in line with the yellow line, which is all printed here on the board at the very top. So it is easy to orientate where you're able to go. You are the yellow spot, and then you can move anywhere along that red area as long as you're able to, because you can't move through buildings or through other pieces of garbage.
It's New York City. It's a little hard to get around.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff blocking your line of sight in New York City. The other option is that you can have ghost moves, which will allow you to move through buildings and things along those lines, and those will be delineated by the blue styles instead of the red.
Someone leaves their door open, you climb up the escape ladder, or Spider-Man comes and swings you along. I like that theory the best.
I think it's more that you're actually falling into the sewer system for open grates.
No, Wes.
And then you're like running through there, and
it's
you're
disgusting.
going, oh, there's a guy.
Absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
I'm not on board with that thematic choice.
You don't think that that's the option?
I think Spider-Man would care.
It's possible, but it could be.
I want a
Batman
comic
too,
series where he spends 72 years trying to deal with the rat population in New York City, and still
Do you think
fails.
do you think that's a war he would actually win though?
No.
Like against the rats? I feel like there's just no way.
It's not. The best we can do here is explode a few trash cans and
hope for the
hunker
best.
down into a corner and cry.
Right.
That's your best opportunity.
That is the best
here.
opportunity.
This is not a city-defining battle. This is one block.
Yeah. This is Bushwick. I mean, it's just that one little spot. We're just hoping for the best in this one area because there's an abandoned house down the way. That's where most of the rats are probably coming from, and the city won't knock it down because they're too cheap.
That's true.
It's really what it boils down to.
So, what is the cool stuff? What is the thing that, if you're deciding whether or not you're going to back this game, the stuff that you should be paying attention to? For me, the major thing here is not only that it is a fun helter-skelter skirmish game. There's a lot of joy to be had if you like the theme, if you like the style, if you like the aesthetic, like if you relate to this at all. So everyone in New York City, or I guess most cities, I would assume, there's things to be attracted to here. But the thing that stands out, the thing that I think this does different from most skirmish games that I've played, is it allows you to feel like you're powerful while still having a ton of movement. What do I mean by that? Skirmish games usually fall into two camps for me. One is I'm super powerful, and I go and I stand in the middle of the arena and I punch the other person. And then they punch me, and then I punch them back. And then they punch me, and then I punch them back. And maybe we sidestep once or twice, but really it's about brute force. The other side of skirmish games that I typically find is I am like a ninja. I can race around, I can dodge, I can duck, and do everything I want until one person touches me.
Yeah.
They touch me with the lightest little tap, and suddenly I've exploded into 1,000 pieces, and this really cool character that I thought was awesome and doing so much stuff disintegrates. And some of my favorite skirmish games do have that. That is true. But I like it when a skirmish game allows me to feel powerful, and yet at the same time not lose my positioning, not ignore the fact that tactical movement, not ignore the fact that running across the board and dragging someone away with you to save their life is an important part of making something that feels real and feels like you're playing with actual characters. So you have permanent death in this. Right? Your character gets knocked out, they're knocked out. But you also have the save system, this last stand system, that allows you that little bit of a gasp. You got two chances, as long as you haven't expended them on special abilities, which felt very cool if you
pretty
had.
awesome. Yep.
You have two chances to reposition or heal or get into a corner and hide. And the way that you actually score on this is by one character or one player mobbing you with an arsenal of rats, which just feels cool.
Yep.
And everyone else needs to run, duck, hide, search through the trash cans, toss fireworks into the back alley, and just skirt out of the way as much as possible. And yet at the same time, you feel powerful. The abilities feel good. Those special abilities that you use to sacrifice a last stand feel worth it when it's time to do it.
Yep.
And there's so many little minions on the board, you just get to squish them. And that's fun. It's a good lead up to when you actually take down a big general, because you killed 50 tiny little rat babies in the process.
All of that's very true.
What do you think's worth paying attention to?
The other thing I think about this game, I mean, you mentioned a lot of the really great parts, the feeling of being very powerful, all
I'm
the
very good at my job, West Todd.
It's very true. So I'm going to go back to how this game makes me feel. I know in a lot of other games where it's one versus many, if you're not the one, then it doesn't feel like it's a really fulfilled and fun game. A lot of times you're stuck out as that, hey, you're playing all these different characters and it's just not as much fun.
Yeah. I had, and I mean this, I had more fun than I expected to have playing with a group of characters as opposed to playing the rats. I want to play the rats.
Oh, yeah.
But you finished playing both sides and you were like, hey, I enjoy both equally.
Yeah, I would happily play either side, and that says something about a one versus many game, because there's not many out there that I can think of where I'm okay playing the other side, because I always like being the super powerful one that does all the really unique things. And while the rats are super powerful and do really unique things, so do the people. I mean, there were multiple times where I had you guys hemmed up, surrounded by little rats, and you managed to find some way to get out of it because you were able to utilize all the different powers that you had available to you, which makes each side
better than you, but
which makes each side feel equally powerful, and I think that alone makes this game worth checking out. Maybe it's not your style game or whatever, but man, it's also the game from PAX that I played and that I kept thinking about the most, and I think that says a lot about the game as well.
Cool. So there you have it. If you're watching this point, I mean, you're probably already following the link and going to back it. Anyway, leave a comment down below. Let us know if you have any questions. I am sure the boys from Bushwick. The boys from Bushwick. We'll be taking a look and responding to
the BBs.
Any questions you have. So, that being said, we'll see you next time.
Absolutely.
Bye.